Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, this is 1960s Cone of Silence. 1960s Cone of Silence. And this has Michael Craig, Bernard Lee, and a kind of a side role of Peter Cushing. Now, never heard of this film before in my entire life. When you look up things about Peter Cushing, this film doesn't seem to come up. And it is, pretty unknown. And it is, it says here it's a rare villainous role for Peter Cushing, but just not in the way at all that you would ever expect. Okay, this is a British film, but throw away Hammer films and what you think about Hammer films and what you know about Hammer films. I have a friend who is a commercial airline pilot, and this film would probably be candy for them. Now, I will say that I've seen a lot of films, not a lot, I mean, a good number of films in my lifetime about airplanes, but I have never seen a movie about airplanes like this. Now, first off, this phrase, cone of silence, is actually like a phrase that pilots would understand. Okay, it has something to do with a certain level of air travel or something. You can look it up and research it, but I just thought it was like a really interesting name for a movie, but I had no idea that it was actually kind of a certain, kind of reference to something involving aircraft and certain levels of flight in aircraft or something. It's really mysterious and interesting. Now, this film, if it were to be classified, it would be classified possibly as a mysterious thriller involving the science of air travel, of flight, of the knowledge and the expertise of being a pilot. Now, if that sounds completely out there, it's because I've never seen a movie like this before, detailing subject matter in this particular type of way and in the thriller mystery realm. Now, typically in a thriller, you have direct like kind of characters, human beings that are doing things to other human beings. But when you have a film like Cone of Silence, it becomes more complicated. The way aircraft, the way air travel, the way flight is complicated. I mean, does anybody other than a pilot truly understand? Do pilots even truly understand what the hell is going on when an airplane lifts off? So essentially what you have here is you've heard before that the most dangerous times in an airplane are the takeoff and the landing. There are some really unique concepts and imagery in this film involving air travel. And put aside the in the Twilight Zone movie, the last story with the creature on the aircraft, put that aside, and let's just make it about, the science of aircraft, and let's make it about the idea of airline crashes or airline problems. And really, they tend to be between pilot error or mechanical failure. And those are the two things. Those are the two reasons why there's an aircraft problem, why an airplane, crashes upon takeoff, or why it crashes during landing. Or even, why it can completely lose control 30,000 feet up. Um, and there are some harrowing sequences in here. I do not recommend watching this film if you are flying on a plane, unless you want some realistic thrills that could possibly happen to you, and you're a daredevil. But I found this film to be extremely interesting. Like, I was just fascinated by, just the idiosyncrasies of pilots and of the way everything they need to know about flying a plane. And there's a sequence in here involving hail, and there are some camera images in here that you don't typically see in a film involving air travel, where it's like you're seeing what the pilot sees. And I'm talking about commercial aircraft. I'm not talking about military aircraft or anything like that, or helicopters or anything. You're talking about commercial, airplanes. And we also have a bit of court drama in here, which is super interesting. And we also have a bit of kind of an illicit romance in here, which is played up to be the main romance, which is also like really crazy. We're here, black and white film, 1960. The score in the film is orchestrated, dramatic, sometimes pleasant, a little bit airy, maybe not what you're expecting for a film like this. Sometimes it reminds me of like a 60s TV show, in between. But the camera, there wasn't much of a focus, I would say, on music. The camera and the sound was the sound of the aircraft. And there were times where I had to pause the movie. I thought there was a noise outside or something. I didn't know what the hell. And it was the film. The film also is claustrophobic. It's claustrophobic inside the pilot's cabin. You get to see what's going on in there, and you get a lot of knowledge about what they're doing when they're 30,000 feet up and how alone they kind of are. I once had a friend who was a pilot who said flying planes was extremely boring. Other than the takeoff and the landing, when you're up in the air, it's just very boring. And he admitted that pilots will sometimes sleep, which is, terrifying. You're also seeing 1960 versus 2026, how technology has changed with flying a plane. You have really the claustrophobia, but you also have heat. The sweat and the heat of Calcutta, and an airport in Calcutta, and the mystery and the investigation of why things are happening with problems with an airplane. You kind of get a first-hand view of an airplane crash. You get a really terrifying, I don't want to give away too much, but a really terrifying kind of thing that can happen in midair. You've heard about planes hitting like geese and taking the engines out, but what about, vicious hail? Because you're at a certain level because of turbulence being another thing, and really just kind of seeing like how incredibly difficult and insane this is. We also have a relationship between a father and a daughter. We have a lot of kind of a triangle of complexities within, the business of it all. The relationships and the complexities of those relationships, and how they, maybe some corruption as well, but also ignorance. Where does ignorance fall in when it comes to mystery? Sometimes mystery, sometimes a thriller, sometimes a horror film is based upon ignorance. If an airplane can crash based upon ignorance, then people can get hurt in day-to-day life generally just by ignorance. And this is really about the mystery and the investigation and the torment of one man and his daughter, and people who are willing to face and really face the issues and investigate in the truest sense. So this film not only has mystery, thriller, but also investigation, which is typical in a dark thriller, right? Like a film like Seven. So in a way, you could almost look at this film as a 1967 film, I believe directed by Fincher, right? A 1960s version of Seven, but instead of an investigation of a human being, it's an investigation of an aircraft and a pilot. Cone of Silence is an extremely, to me, it just fascinated me. It really fascinated me because the stakes are high. The stakes are high when you are high up. And if you've ever kind of been intrigued by airplanes, if you've ever been scared of flying, Cone of Silence is going to really tap into a lot of these types of situations. And you don't really know what the hell is going on at first. Like, there were points of the film where I was like, is this gonna turn into a horror film? Is there something supernatural? Is there, like, for the first hour, you really don't know why certain things are happening. And so it leaves everything really wide open. So it leaves your brain wide open, and it leaves the movie wide open. And then it ends with revelation of the mystery. This is 1960s Cone of Silence.